Hey legends, we've had our team list Tuesday and we are going to get straight into buy, hold and sell for round 11. Now, as you guys already know, the carnage continues. There's some absolute superstars down in that sell list, which is a tragedy. There's some chaos going on the hold list, and there's a few surprises coming into our buy list this week. So with all of that in mind, let's get into it. Okay, so as per normal, what I'm going to do is obviously highlight the fact that my buy, hold, sell doesn't encapsulate what everyone is doing out there in fantasy land. So there's a couple of players who are currently marked as really hot on NRL fantasy statistics that I think if you're playing head-to-head make absolute sense, but if you're playing overall probably don't make sense at this point in time, mostly because of state of origin. And if we go down this who's hot list, what I'll do is I'll just talk about some of the players that aren't on our list. So first up, you've got Dylan Brown. Now, he didn't make the buy list for us this week, mostly because we think his time at halfback is coming to an end. And with that, I think his scores are actually going to plateau and maybe dip off a little bit. So we think maybe you've only got a few more weeks with Dylan Brown, arguably overachieving in that halfback role. Next up, we've got Daniel Atkinson. And the reason we don't have him as a buy essentially is because Trindle is now stalking that bench. Look, he could absolutely still be a play for a couple of weeks, and I don't blame anyone for jumping on board. But for mine, there's a few question marks. Obviously, when Nico is back, he becomes the dominant half. And what happens if Trindle comes into this team as well? So for me, it's a little bit of a risk. Blaze Talangi, now we won't have him on our buy list as well. Clint Gutherson surely is not that far away, so I think, you're only in for a short-term rental on Blaze if you decide to jump on board. David Fafita, I think, look, absolute superstar, and I think we all want him in our teams at some stage. But unfortunately, with State of Origin looming, he will be out for a number of weeks over that State of Origin period. And I just don't think we can go there. Now, Dylan Edwards almost made our list. The only thing that kind of held us back this week was the fact that he may have some sort of role in that New South Wales State of Origin team. He deserves it. He is the best fullback in the game right now. I can see people taking a punt on Dylan Edwards, not making State of Origin. But for me, at his price, he's probably not going to make a whole heap more money. But I can absolutely see why people are jumping on board. Next up, Aden Fanua-Blake, so another superstar in that middle position, but his fixtures aren't amazing. He's scoring a lot of tries, and we're not 100% confident he can maintain that, especially in an underperforming New Zealand Warriors team without Shaun Johnson over the next few weeks, so that remains to be seen. So again, he's not a feature in this week's buy, hold, sell. Ewan Aitken, absolutely carving it up with that edge center duel for the Finns, but unfortunately, the Finns for us just have a few too many moving pieces. And again, kind of like Fanua-Blake, we're just not sure that he can maintain such a great output for the long term. Now, Teddy, he's not on our list either, mostly because of the State of Origin factor. Similarly with Payne Haas and Cameron Munster. So, all of these three are clearly State of Origin. Fafita, State of Origin. Maybe State of Origin for Dylan Edwards. So there you go. That explains some of the differences in terms of players that we're not buying this week. In terms of who didn't make the sell list, a player who should, that we haven't included this week, is Joey Chan. So Joey Chan should absolutely be on the sell list. And if we just go back up the top and just work our way through it just quickly, now we do have Turbo on the sell list. We have Johnson on the hold list, Cleary a sell, Roger a sell, Bateman a sell, Fini Fuiaki a sell. Salmon I've got listed as a hold, but he's not in this particular buy, hold, sell this week. He's been on the hold list for probably the last 3 or 4 weeks. Same as Piakura. I can see why people are selling him, but for now he is a hold. Pearce-Paul is another one. He's a hold. Brimson is looking like a sell, and we'll talk about him in detail. I would probably still put Brandon Smith as a hold. If you've held him this long, leverage him to help you get through round 13 and then look elsewhere. Billy Walters, I don't know why you have him, but if you do, he's a hold. He'll only be out for maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Manu is a hold. and Maxi Plath is also a hold. So what I want to highlight here is that there's a whole bunch of people that really are looking to move on too quickly, and maybe that's for a head-to-head reason. But what I really want to highlight here as well is, look, don't panic trade. Don't trade out a potential gun or a potential long-term gun just because they've had one bad week or because they're missing one round. And I know sometimes you have to do that, but if you can, do look to hold as many of these superstars as possible. We know Joey Manu is going to be huge. Shaun Johnson is only looking at about 3 weeks. Maxi Plath has been awesome. And some of these other guys will just get you through the major buy rounds, which is going to be very important over the next few weeks. Alrighty, so let's just jump into some of the individual players. And first up, we've got Kaeo Weekes. Now, Kaeo Weekes is arguably buy of the round, mostly because he has this -8 break even and a 339k price point. We really love that, plus the fact that he's got dual halfback and wing fullback flexibility, very important to get us through the bye rounds. And he's coming off some huge scores of 42 and 57, so he is the dominant half at the Raiders. He does play the round 13 and 16 buys, but doesn't play round 14 or 19, so take that into consideration when you're looking at Kaeo Weekes. He does have some tough fixtures though. He's coming up against the Doggies, the Chooks and the Finns. But overall, I reckon he is a decent buy this week and you should definitely consider Kaeo Weekes. My plan is to get in Kaeo Weekes this week, hold through until round 13 and then sell Ethan Strange and just hold on to Kaeo Weekes for a little bit longer after that. Let's keep moving. Okay, next up we've got Briton Nikora. So available on the edge. I reckon this is probably one of the last weeks you can pick up Briton Nikora at a decent price. He's still very expensive, 659k. He does have that 37 break even and a 0.62 ppm. He's only owned by 2.95% of owners, so a little bit of a pod. The big question marks that I have on Nikora is, can he perform at the levels he's been performing at without Nicho Hynes in that team? So for me, he's still a little bit undervalued and still has the potential to increase in value and point scoring. He won't play State of Origin, and I think is a decent option if you're looking to move on from someone like Pearce-Paul, and I think he will do a decent job in your side. Next up, Sammy Walker, a popular purchase this week, mostly for those who are under a bit of pressure with either a Shaun Johnson or a Nathan Cleary. He's provided a mixed bag of scores for us so far though, so be conscious of that. He has a 37, a HIA affected 4, a 90, a 35 and a 54. So he'll be a little bit up and down, but I think he's really starting to take control of that Roosters outfit. The Roosters are absolutely firing on all cylinders, and I think as a consequence of that, Sam Walker will only continue to get better and better. And at 595k, he does represent pretty decent value in an under pressure halves position, thanks to a whole bunch of injuries this season. So Sam Walker is definitely on the buy list. Let's keep moving. Okay, next up we've got Samuela Fainu. So we've had him on our buy list for a couple of weeks now, but he is available in middle and edge. So we love the fact that he's got the dual positioning there, great flexibility, which is what we need to survive the next 10 rounds or so. Only 452k so far, has a 26 break even and a 0.57 ppm. Currently owned by 9.22% of fantasy players and has a mixed bag of scores over his last 5 rounds. So 12, 44, 28, 44, 32. Now we reckon with no Bateman that will keep Fainu in the edge, or certainly towards the middle of the park, more so than being pushed out towards the centres, which is what happened last weekend. And I think when he's playing towards the middle or more as an edge middle forward, he will actually deliver better and more consistent performances. And so far this year, he's only scored the 1 try, which was the 54 he got very early on in the season. And something to be very conscious of coming into round 13 is he won't play the first major bye round, but has an absolute amazing run of fixtures after that. and will be great. So he is definitely someone on my radar this week for sure. Next up, Dom Young. Probably no surprise that he is on the buy list. He was on our buy list last week as well. The big, I guess, asterisk beside Dom Young is he was amazing in the first 15 to 20 minutes of that game last weekend where he scored the 84. I think he was just absolutely flying. And then you could almost argue that he went a little bit missing after that. So, if you break down his score, he was probably on 50, 60 points after 15 minutes. And then the remainder of his score, he scored over the balance of that game. So that's something to be conscious of. You are going to get a rocks and diamonds Dom Young, depending on which way the Roosters run the ball. And if they're going to run it Dom Young's side, he is absolutely going to benefit from that. Now, he does need tries. As you can see there, without a try, his last bunch of games are 15, -12, 9, 14, 18, 12, 31, 22, 55, 38, and 29. So when he doesn't score a try, it does have big consequences on his score. But having said all that, he is in a Roosters side that is absolutely firing right now, and the lineups for the Roosters looks absolutely amazing over the next few weeks. So I reckon Dom Young is still a buy. He's only got the 5 break even, and I can see the Roosters and Dom Young going on a bit of a tear. So let's keep moving. Tolutau Koula, so tempting, 458k and a 29 break even. He's now got the fullback position thanks to the fact that Turbo is out, and at fullback we know he's got scores of 77, 110, 49 and 57. But I think the asterisk that we put behind that is that they were against some weaker teams. So can he continue that when he comes up against, and you can see his fixtures there, the Broncos, the Storm, then the bye, then the Panthers, the Dragons and the Rabbits, and then another bye. So his fixtures over the next few weeks aren't amazing, and I really wouldn't be banking on, 77 and 110. But having said that, we know he loves to run the ball, and I think he will be in for a decent few weeks where he should see a higher level of scoring than he's so far been able to achieve this year. He does have that center wing fullback duel, and we do love flexibility here on Fantasy Wannabes, so I reckon he does deserve to be on the buy list. And I think at 458k, you can't go too wrong, assuming that you can cover the round 13 bye as well. Let's keep moving. Alrighty, so we've got Greg Marzhew, wing fullback. Now, it's very fair to say that he hasn't had the most amazing start to his 2024 campaign. Started the year at a whopping 734k and currently sits at a price point of only 458k. So that is one hell of a discount. He has bottomed out though. His break even is 28 and he's coming off scores of 33, 17, 18, 36 and 49 with a try. So our big question mark on Greg Marzhew this week is he back? Because if he is and they start firing the ball down towards Greg Marzhew, then you never know. He could go on a little bit of a tear and average, 50 plus per game, which would be absolutely amazing. You don't have to jump on him this week. He is up against the Titans though, and the draw for Marzhew is interesting. He's up against the Titans for Magic Round, then out on a bye, then it's the Dogs, Storm, Penrith, and another bye. So I think he absolutely deserves to be on the bye list, but obviously there's a couple of factors you need to be aware of with Greg Marzhew. But from our point of view, hopefully he can get back to somewhere near his best, because I think, at that 458k bargain basement price for Greg Marzhew, I think the only way is up in 2024. Now, next up, we'll finish our buy list with arguably the cheapie of the week with a lot of asterisks behind his name. So that's Jack Cole, available for half, playing obviously at the Panthers, and only 230k, an 18 break even and a 0.45 ppm. Currently owned by 5.39% of fantasy players, and it's really hard to read into this one, but has scores of 2 and 26 in 41 minutes in 2024. So there's so many asterisks here that we need to talk about a couple of them. One is Brad Schneider and his injury. How long's he going to be out for? If it's anything shorter than 3 or 4 weeks, then that makes the Jack Cole purchase a really difficult one. If Schneider's out for, 4 weeks or more, then you know what? Jack Cole becomes a very interesting purchase, and at 230k, you can't go too far wrong. The Cleary injury means that it will be Jack Cole or Brad Schneider, and I think if we had a look at the hierarchy, it clearly goes Cleary first, Schneider second, Jack Cole third. So the big question mark here with Jack Cole is, what is his longevity going to be? Now, I can see a world if you're sitting on a lot of trades that you know what, you just take a punt on Jack Cole. But if trades are precious, you really need to be trading in for somebody who's got a decent longevity to get you through a fairly decent chunk of the bye rounds. So that's between now and round 19, I'd say. And if Jack Cole's a 1 or 2 week play, then I'd say no. But if you're confident that he's going to be playing in 4 or 5 rounds, then absolutely go for it. So big risk, big reward. I can see him scoring somewhere around the 50 plus point mark if he gets 80 minutes on the park. Now, as I understand the way the Panthers are structuring their team this week, Luai will move to halfback and Jack Cole will come in as 5'8". So that's very interesting. And I don't know about you, but I'm really excited to see what he can bring to Magic Round this weekend. Let's keep moving. All right, onto the holds, and we've got Trey Fuller as a hold this week. He has been dropped for the Hammer. Unfortunately, Wayne Bennett has confirmed that Hammer is the fullback at the Dolphins, and that does make a whole lot of sense. It's unfortunate for Trey Fuller. It's a bit sad they couldn't fit him in anywhere within that team. So the big question now becomes, what do you do with Trey Fuller? Now, I've got some notes down the bottom there. He will play every game that the Hammer is out, and I'll probably look to sell him just after round 13. Now, I do have a little asterisk there because obviously the Hammer is somebody who could get injured or rested. So do keep an eye on that. Trey Fuller has made us a truckload of cash. He's got a 20 break even and will probably make us another big chunk of cash if he plays just 1 or 2 more games. But then we'd probably be looking to move on anyway, even though he has that amazing bye coverage playing round 13, 16, and 19 major bye rounds. So a bit unfortunate for Trey Fuller, but a guy I think we can comfortably move on from very, very soon. Next up, another Finn, Maxi Plath, available half mid dual, which is amazing. 640k. And a 48 break even. He's been really decent. He'll only be out 1 week with the HIA. So I can't actually believe a whole bunch of people are selling him this week. He's got great bye coverage and is unlikely to play State of Origin, although I think he's sort of on the fringes of making a State of Origin debut just based off his pure intensity. And I've got one more note down there that 49% of the top 100 own Maxi Plath. So a very interesting proposition, but definitely not a sell this week. He is 100% a hold. Brendan Piakura. Now, as a Broncos fan, I want to say this guy is a superstar, but he is just not delivering, and I can understand people wanting to move him on. My only caveat to that is at 361k, who the hell are we moving him on to? He's lost about 40k so far this year. He's definitely not delivering, and he is starting to get reduced minutes thanks to Jack Gachewski. I probably pronounced that really poorly. But if the minutes continue to slide and his performances don't improve, then I think we really have no choice other than to move him on or downgrade into to maybe a Kaeo Weekes. Maybe the Jack Cole trade isn't a stupid one for Brendan Piakura. But look, if you're selling, I can't blame you. If you're holding, hopefully he starts to produce some decent scores, can make a little bit of cash, and then we can move him on. For me, I've got a few more red dots, and I think that's the key here. Trade your red dots, hold your green ones. But Brendan Piakura is a player with a lot of question marks right now, who will probably be out of a lot of teams in the not too distant future. Ethan Strange, we've got him as a hold this week. He's probably peaked, but I just want to remind people that he does have scores approaching, 46 and 50 already. So don't panic trade with those 14s and 35s. I think he does have the potential to really improve those scores. Keeping in mind, he's only scored the 1 try all season so far and is due probably for a couple more attacking stats. He does play round 13, he does play round 16, but won't be playing round 14 or 19, so that's a little bit of a watch out during the bye period. He's got a couple of tougher matchups with the Dogs, the Chooks, the Finns, and then the bye, Cows, Tigers, Storm, Knights, and the bye. So it's a little bit of a mixed draw for him over the next few weeks. But for me, the reason you keep Ethan Strange is bye coverage. Now, it's going to be very hard if you hold Raiders players, Dolphins players, and Roosters players. So round 14 is the big question mark there. So obviously they're all available round 13. But come round 14, we're looking to get 17 players back on the park. And it's going to be very difficult if you've got, 2 Roosters, 2 Dolphins, and 2 Raiders. So for me, Ethan Strange could be the Raider that's sacrificed going into round 14, along with someone like Trey Fuller. But for me, at least until round 13, Ethan Strange is a hold. Joey Manu, he's got the HIA this week. He's only out for 1 week. I can't believe people are offloading him. Now, my assumption is Teddy gets the State of Origin fullback gig, and Manu will bounce back and slot into that fullback position at the Roosters. And the Roosters' draws are absolutely amazing at the moment, so he will go on a little bit of a tear. And I can see him getting one of those 79s, 60s. I think he is going to be absolutely amazing. I probably bought him in a week too early, but I absolutely think he will be a superstar during the bye rounds. Let's keep moving. Pearce-Paul, another one that's been a little bit of a surprise packet in terms of his performance, going extremely well with scores of 66, 56, 30, 52, and 32, thanks to the fact that he was benched last week. And it looks like he's benched again this week with a little bit of news that Tyson Frizzell may be still carrying an injury, and that could change things up at the Knights. For me, Pearce-Paul is still a hold, and I can see the benefits in the Knights resting him. They've got the Titans this week going into a bye, and then they come up against some really strong defensive teams in the Dogs, the Storm, and Penrith before another bye. But you know what they say, 1 week's a dot, 2's a line, 3's a trend. And if the trend of Pearce-Paul continues to be on the bench, then we will absolutely look to move on from Pearce-Paul, probably towards a Briton Nikora, or maybe even an Eli Katoa. But for now, for me, Pearce-Paul continues to be a hold. Let's keep moving. Shaun Johnson, there's news this week that he'll only be out for the 2 weeks, and then he goes into the bye, and then he'll be back. So for me, a player of Shaun Johnson's caliber for that short amount of time, I think is a hold if you can afford to do it. Now, I can understand if you're struggling in the halves department that you would move on from Shaun Johnson. He has a very high break even at 93 now. But look, he is an absolute superstar, and if you can hold him for 3 weeks and he comes back and just absolutely tears it up, then you'll be kicking yourself if you sell him too early. For me, Shaun Johnson is absolutely a hold. Let's keep moving. All right, on to the sells, and we won't dwell too much on these, but John Bateman, he's done his pec and is looking like he's out for 8 weeks. Again, you can't hold. Now, I would have absolutely loved to have gotten him in last week. In fact, I toyed around with the idea. Obviously, I'm glad I didn't, and I feel very sorry for those of you who jumped on John Bateman. A really unfortunate injury, but unfortunately out for 8 weeks and you have to sell. Now, the guy to his right, Flegler, there is an argument to hold on to him through the bye rounds, but I think, the obvious fact that Lukey is now back and he is the favoured edge sees Flegler getting less and less minutes. You could carry him over the origin period, but I think pretty much everything that he has done in terms of growing in value will be eroded away very, very quickly, especially if he doesn't get the minutes, because I just see, Lukey getting more and more minutes each week, and Flegler kind of fading into the background as he looks to move on from the Cowboys in 2025. Let's keep moving. 2 absolute weapons, 2 superstars of the game, Nathan Cleary and Tommy Turbo. Unfortunately, both out with long-term injuries. Between the two, you're looking at about $1.5 million right there. I had them both last week. I can't afford to keep them. This week, I'll be selling both Nathan Cleary and Turbo. I think it's tragic, but we just have to move on. Next up, some unfortunate news on Tommy Flegler. It looks like he could be gone for the remainder of the season with that really severe shoulder injury. We were hoping that it would only be for a couple of weeks, but unfortunately, it looks like it's going from bad to worse. So really bad for the Finns, really bad for Queensland. Tommy Flegler is absolutely a sell. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, he is also on the sell list this week. He's gone down with a hammy as well, so he will be out for at least 4 weeks. The thing with Roger is, and it's really unfortunate, that he hasn't really fired in 2024, not the way we would have liked him to. So unfortunately, he is also a sell. Jason Saab and Chevy Stewart. So Saab is out with an injury, another injury. So just too many red flags around Jason Saab to really consider in your fantasy team this year. And Chevy Stewart, well, he was rested before the bye. And it looks like with Jordan Rapana back in that team, he will continue to be rested, which is, I guess, a nice way to say that he has been dropped. He's not even in the extended squad. So if you're holding him, I think he is absolutely a sell, which is a bit of a tragedy. I think he is the future of the Raiders. He will bounce back, and at some stage in the future, I'm sure we will see Chevy Stewart again. But for now, he is on our sell list. So there you go, guys. That was a hell of a long one. Some amazing players that are out on our sell list, which is a tragedy. Some players that I don't think you should pull the trigger on just yet, and some emerging talent jumping in on our buy list, which is very interesting for Magic Round this week. Now, we will be back with an express version of buy, hold, sell, so you don't have to wade all the way through this massive, more detailed version of buy, hold, sell. Everyone's time is precious, and we absolutely appreciate that. So we will have an express version just to make your life a hell of a lot easier. Anyway, guys, look, if you've liked the video, you know what to do. Smash that like button for me. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, guys, get involved in the conversation via the comment section down below. And I'll see you all in the next video.